Hello and welcome to the Building Sciology Poddie, where we talk about better buildings to live and breathe in. Today my guest is Clare Conroy. Clare works for 35 South down in Victor Harbour, down on the Fleurieu Peninsula. Try saying that 3 times really fast. In South Australia. I met Clare last year at the Proclima Australia study launch, and then we followed that up with a presentation to 35 South and some other local builders last year as well. So thank you, Clare, for coming on to the show to have a chat about your experience in the industry.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. So first question, how did you get into the construction industry?
Well, I guess I'm fairly new to the construction industry. I've been working in the construction industry for less than 12 months, but my entry was as a homeowner. So I built a home in 23 with 35 South Building Co. and learnt an enormous amount through that experience, as most people who are going through that building process do, and just formed such a good relationship with the guys from 35 South. And at handover, I was showing them some nerdy spreadsheets that I'd been using throughout the construction process. And, we had a little bit of a joke about, maybe one day you should come and work for us. And then it must have been about 4 or 5 months later, I actually got this call saying, how we used to joke about that. Would you actually like to come over? And it's been such a great move. So it's not like anything that I've ever done before, but there's been a lot of transferable skills that I've been able to bring, and just really enjoying learning in this new environment.
That's so cool. So you've had a complete career flip, a complete career change.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's so cool. That's something that, most of us only dream of. Being able to go into a career that we really love, just by chance like that. That's so cool.
Yeah, and to be able to do it without any, I don't have any construction qualifications or design qualifications, and so to be able to make that move, later in career without that kind of experience is really rare. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity to do that without having to, retrain and start, right from the bottom and work your way up. So it's been a lot of fun. It's going well so far.
So what role have you filled at 35 South Building Co?
I've got a lot of roles. I'm not on nothing to do on the tools. So it's it's a kind of a project management, contract management role, kind of a business system improvement role. And I think that, as a lot of people would appreciate in the building industry, it's one thing to be able to build really great houses. It's another thing to be able to run a really great building business. And so the team at 35 South are fantastic builders. But where I guess I've come in is to support them in managing a great business, and also delivering a really fantastic client experience as well. I think we really believe that building a house is like a real journey, a real investment of time and effort. It's one of the most significant decisions that's going to influence your life and your family's life in big ways. And so we really want to make that a really positive experience.
Yeah, that's so cool. Good on you.
Thank you.
What did you find, like, when you rocked up, brand new industry, brand new job? What have you found to be your biggest challenges so far?
Probably a fair bit of imposter syndrome coming into the industry brand new, but I think that was probably a bigger fear than actually the reality. I think that I've been able to pick things up pretty quickly, but certainly there are challenges, just like in any industry, with the acronyms and terminology that you don't know and having to get across these different ways of working. But I think I've been, pleasantly surprised for the most part about how quickly I've been able to do that, and the strength of relationships that I've been able to build. So it's actually been relatively smooth so far.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm really glad to hear it. So you decided to move into this industry after building your house. So that process, was it construction that you liked, or was it the way that company did their construction? Like what was it that actually sparked your interest in this?
I guess a few things. So I was previously living in Canberra for about 20 years, and so had gotten to see the work of Jenny Edwards' Lighthouse Architecture and Science, and really admired the work that they did. Went along to Sustainable House Day and seen their open homes, etc. And so was really influenced, and thought that would be a really positive goal. Is to I would love to build a house, and build a house kind of with that intention and with those values at the core. So was lucky enough to do that in 22, 23. And so I guess I enjoyed like lots of aspects of the process, the design, the construction, but also I think building is such a relationship business, and so really enjoyed forming that relationship with the team. And I love the blend in construction, design and construction, of like creativity and problem solving, like creativity and science. It's this real nice blend. So I think that, I don't know, tick the boxes for me intellectually to be able to play and learn in those ways.
Yep. And 35 South, they build high performing homes, do they?
Yeah, I mean, we've done a range of homes, but certainly have an interest in high performance homes, and so that was one of the things that attracted me to working with them. Was that they had some experience using high performance products, and doing that kind of work.
Yeah, that's awesome. And this all inspired you to start your mailing list. So you're sharing the love,
Yeah,
sharing the education, which has been so great because I am learning so much from your newsletters, honestly,
thank you.
and getting some really cool resources. So tell us a bit about the learning and sharing mailing list.
Yeah, so it's called like the Build Notebook, and it's this idea about kind of, yeah, just sharing a fortnightly capture of what I'm learning along the way. And I guess you were a significant inspiration for this in sharing your learning as you embarked on your new study. And what I really liked about that is that you clearly have a lot of expertise in the industry, but you're doing something new, and so you're not claiming to be an expert in this area. And it's just this practice of kind of learning in public. And I think that idea of learning in public is a value that I hold really, yeah, like it's really kind of central to how I like to show up. My previous background was in kind of HR and leadership development. And I just think that learning is such a great practice to do. And I think about the work that I want to do, and sure, that's like with 35 South and the impact I want to make there. But like you, I want to have a bigger impact beyond the direct kind of work that I'm doing today. And I think just if what I learn along the way, if I can share that with others, and makes a little bit of an impact on their project, then that's great. I think that it's yeah, we all have a kind of a responsibility to think about how we can uplift the industry as a whole, because um, I don't know, Australia needs better houses.
It sure does. It sure does. And the more I realize I don't know. And the more I learn, I
Mm,
realize that holy smokes, Australian houses have got so far to go.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and what I'm seeing, and obviously you've been in the industry much longer than I have, but I just think there's just this massive acceleration happening in terms of learning around, high performance and healthy homes. Like, to think where we were 2 years, 5 years ago, like it's just worlds apart. And what I'm really liking is how the learning seems to be coming from all parts of the industry. It's not like there's some kind of innovation lab in some institution and it's kind of filtering down. I'm learning so much from just what other builders are figuring out on site, and there's innovation happening there. And from what I see, I reckon there's more innovation in kind of performance detailing happening from builders than it is from designers, and it's feeding back that way. And then new products are coming on the market, and then you have kind of some research happening as well. And so it's definitely not a kind of a linear flow of innovation. It's really coming and from all sectors, and so that's why I think the sharing is so important, because you can it goes all over the place. And I think we're going to get better outcomes when everyone is taking that kind of expansive view, and thinking about all of the things that they can learn in all of the places.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that if we waited for policy and the
Mm,
upper levels of the the powers that be, if we wait for them, we'll be waiting forever. So the
yeah,
innovation that is coming from homeowners and from builders,
yeah,
you know, differentiating themselves from other builders to just deliver us a higher level of product in this highly price competitive industry.
yeah.
There are still builders they're differentiating themselves based on those sorts of performance details and attention to
Mm,
detail,
hmm.
which is
Yeah,
only
absolutely.
benefiting
And
the homeowners.
yeah, and I just think that I mean, maybe it's like a little bit woo-woo, but I think there's so much more that goes into a house than just construction methodology. There's a real kind of energy and intention that comes into a house. And I think that, working with builders and with a team that, I guess has that care and intention and commitment to quality, that's going to infuse the house in like a range of both tangible and intangible ways. Um, so yeah, totally on board.
Yeah, yeah, couldn't agree more. So you're a woman, I'm a woman. What has been your experience as a woman in this construction industry? It's quite topical at
Mm,
the moment. In particular, this women in industry
mm,
is ramping up at the moment. There's more women going into trades and
mm-hmm.
more women being found on construction sites. So particularly as you came in without any construction experience,
Mm.
what's your experience been like?
Well, I was pretty nervous about building my house and doing it as a single woman and embarking on that journey because you see these stories. I was kind of doing this like 21, 22 when there was that whole COVID, storm happening, and it was almost every day you'd hop on a news website and there's another builder collapsing. There's just like these stories, like the TikTok site inspector guy, with all of these, like all of this kind of conflict in the construction industry. And so I was quite nervous about how it might go, both because I didn't have any, experience and as a woman as well. But I think that's something that I was pleasantly surprised by working with 35 South is that was like never an issue. And that's kind of carried through to all of the trades they work through. I think that just having those values of just like being decent humans actually is really important and really central to their business. And then, like, the other thing is 35 South are part of the Live, Life, Build, Elevate community as well. So I've gotten to see and hear from a lot of builders in through that platform. And again, was really pleasantly surprised by, like, oh, there are some really good guys and women in this industry. And I have found it nothing but welcoming in that respect. So I think it's probably, for me, it's about just kind of like finding good people and like they are there, and making connections too. And I think that there are some women who are doing fantastic stuff in the industry, and women that I really look to, like you and Amelia Lee and Jenny Edwards and Sarah Lebner, and like all of these people who have really influenced me in building my own home. And I think are just really positive role models for the way that I guess women can kind of show up and contribute and add value in this industry. So so far I've found it really positive today, and I know that that's not the experience, and probably the on-site experience can be quite different for women, I imagine. Um, but I think I definitely feel like there's a shift happening, and I would love to see more women in construction and women connecting with other women in the sector to make it a really positive industry for all.
Yeah, yeah. I'm the same. I have not had a single negative experience with any professionals in this industry or
Mm,
anyone on site either. So
mm,
I am so happy about that. And yeah, I feel nothing but sort of positive towards the industry as a whole. I have no resentment, which is really good.
mm,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. Um,
Di- Diversity definitely brings strength, right? And I think in all organizations, not just in construction. So I think
mm,
that, um, yeah, different kind of skill sets and mindsets, perspectives, values can only enhance the industry. And I think one of the things that Amelia talks about, which is really interesting, that when it comes to design and decisions around home building, it's often women who are making a lot of those decisions. So I think having in construction, if you've got women on your team who are kind of like bringing a different perspective, perhaps a different way of relating to clients, I think that's only going to add value.
Yeah, 100% agree. So as someone who is always learning in this industry, what do you think the knowledge gaps are, or misconceptions around construction and energy efficiency that you think that anyone listening should be aware of?
Oh, wow. Where to start? That more expensive equals better. I think that's probably a big, misconception. The more I spend on my house, the better it's going to be. I think that there's probably, or like that it has to be complicated, or that it's, that it's expensive, or that it's inaccessible, or that's unnecessary. Like it's very necessary to give some thought. And so if you asked people like if they care about energy efficiency, like some would say like, no, not really. I'm just going to cover my house in solar panels and it'll be fine. But if you said to people like, do you care about having a house that feels comfortable, or that is healthy to live in, or is not going to make you or your family sick? I think most people say, yeah, actually, I want that very much. So where am I going with this? I think it's just some of the misconceptions are that it's this like extra luxurious add-on, but really it's something that can be integrated in fairly simple ways. So certainly there's a lot of complexity in the science, but there's also some really simple principles that I think are worth understanding.
Yeah, I think that I know in my previous job we did energy efficiency assessments, and I actually had people call me up and say to me, this house is not comfortable, why isn't it comfortable, when they'd gone through the building code energy efficiency compliance process. And I think from my perspective, one misconception is that the building code means that you'll have an energy efficient house. Doesn't mean that at all. And secondly, the other misconception, or not misconception, but mistake, I guess, that I think people make is not thinking about how they're going to feel once they're in the house. They're thinking about how it's going to look and entertaining their friends on a Saturday afternoon in their outdoor area. And that's a massive priority, because that affects how you feel in your house, is how you move in it. But as far as the peace of mind that comes along with comfort and health, I don't think that is integrated into people's thought process as much as it should be or needs to be at the start.
No. Totally agree. I think that's a big learning for me, that I probably over kind of indexed on the energy efficiency thing, because it's the thing that's most prevalent in public, and there's a star rating and there's the compliance. So that was certainly my focus when you're thinking about like a high performance building, that the energy efficiency was front of mind. But one of the things I don't think I quite right in my build is that you've got all of these levers to pull around like energy efficiency and like an air tightness and like condensation management, etc. Like you can't kind of just do one without the other. There's a real kind of system that needs to be, and I know that you've posted and spoken about this a lot, that you need to kind of consider that system holistically. So I think that's probably one of the misconceptions, that like you said, that I get a decent energy rating and everything will be fine. No, actually there are a whole range of things that you need to consider, both in design and in construction, and they really need to work together. And that's why having like a good team is so important, and just really taking the time to learn about how all of those things work in conjunction. And because if you overemphasize one, you could be unintentionally causing compromises somewhere else.
It's time for a quick sponsor shout out. Today's episode of the Building Sciology Poddie is proudly brought to you by our amazing sponsors, Enduro Builders and Climasure. A huge thank you to these incredible businesses for supporting the podcast and helping us spread the word about better buildings to live and breathe in. Your support makes this podcast possible. Please head over to their websites and follow their social pages.
100%. I actually went into a house that I did the energy assessment for this house, and then I actually got to go inside it just by pure chance, and I remembered it. And I tell the story a lot because this was one of the things that spurred me on during my earlier years in this industry to go into this high performance space. So I'd done this energy assessment, and we'd used an alternative solution because another massive misconception that people have in building a house is that the only way to get through the building code energy efficiency requirements is using a star rating. There are particularly in the older building codes, there are alternative solutions that do not equal star rating performance. So we used an alternative solution on this house, and I remembered this particular space in the house where there was a window overlooking the pool, and there was a bench. And in the plans that I had assessed, the window was above the bench level. It stopped at the bench level, and you could just see over into the pool. And then when I went into the house, the window had been taken all the way to the ground. So it had been extended down about 900 millimeters to the ground because the homeowners decided they wanted floor to ceiling glazing. And that looked fantastic, but the knock-on effect of that is a massive amount more heat loss, massive amount more heat gain, and probably a lot less comfort in that space. And that was leading on to the main living space as well. So just all of those little things that get changed on site. And I don't even think, when I mentioned it to the builder, he didn't even know. I said, did you get an amendment on your energy assessment for this? And he looked at me like, no, why would I do that? And that may have made the difference between passing and not passing the building code, because that was a big change.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think that this is where good design can really come into play, especially around glazing and natural light. I think that when it comes to optimizing your home and getting best performance and best outcome generally, glazing is such an important one to consider, and it has a massive impact on the feel of the house and the natural light, but also obviously on the energy efficiency and cross ventilation. And so I think that that's something that's really worth working closely with, because it doesn't sometimes you don't need more glazing in order to get better natural light or a great view. You can really transform the feel of the space and the function by putting windows in good spots and making them operate in ways that work well. So that's I think that overglazing is a massive problem, and it probably doesn't need to be so bad if people just thought more intentionally about where their windows go.
100%, because windows are expensive, and the bigger the windows, the better performance they need to be to keep the energy efficiency of that house in check, and the more expensive they get. Something that my old boss used to say was it costs the same to put a window in the right place as it does to put it in the wrong place. So this is all just 100%. About playing with orientation, with just working with your site, working with the sun, and just making sure that those openings are in optimal places, and knowing that even matters. Knowing that the sun moving across the sky makes a difference to the heat that comes into your house. I don't actually think that occurs to some people.
Yeah, and it's hard to get a handle on. Yeah, it's really hard to get a handle on, with the when you're not in the house, how the sun moves. And it's something that I've really noticed here, and that actually on a lot of my even my southwestern windows, in summer, when you're actually getting quite a bit of gain through those. So I think that's the other thing, that in a climate that's changing, we're going to want a lot more flexibility in the homes that we're designing. So it's about having flexible shading solutions and all of these ways, so that we can, I guess, use our house and really respond. We're getting heat waves in late March. So if you've designed your house with, overhangs that are great in January, in March, you're going to be getting a whole heap of solar gain that you don't want. And so having that kind of flexibility in design, I think is really important as well.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing that I don't know is super well understood is that you need to sail a house the way you sail a ship. You need to actually open it up, have adjustable shading based on the time of year, have windows that are openable based on when, the prevailing winds. You actually have to interact with your house in order to keep it comfortable. It's not a set and forget situation unless you build a certified passive house. But even then, there are certain things you need to do to keep it comfortable throughout, the whole way through the year. So having adjustable shading and things like that are really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's move on to the next question. The perception around balancing energy efficiency and affordability can be tricky. So in your experience, what would your advice be for anyone out there, whether it's homeowner, builder, architect, anyone who's looking to achieve both of those things? What would your advice be?
Build smaller. Absolutely. And that's your biggest lever that you've got to pull when you're wanting to reduce costs but maintain quality and performance. Build smaller. And you like that is very doable with good design. And so that would be my number one thing. And then to think about like what are the free things, like you said, it costs as much to put the window in the right spot as the wrong spot. In terms of like the orientation of your home, that doesn't cost any different. Like you can have the same house and just twist it, and that can have a big impact on the performance of your home. So yeah, build smaller and get the orientation right. And I think that those two things will carry you a significant way in getting a great and affordable outcome.
Great answer. So your construction career, where do you want to take that?
That's such a good question, and I feel like I'm so new in it at the moment, so I'm still learning lots. But I think that like my previous work has been as a kind of a coach and a trainer and facilitator, so it might be nice to see how I might be able to bring more of that to the work that I'm doing. So I don't have a defined idea yet, but I think that I want to continue to support good people to do great work, and there are great builders and designers and homeowners and people in the industry, and finding ways that I might be able to help elevate or shine a light on, or contribute my expertise in some way to facilitate and kind of amplify that work would be great. I'm also keen to just build some more houses too, right? So maybe even doing some of my certain development down the track would be great. I'd love to be involved in designing and building another home.
Yeah, nice. That's exciting. I've never built a house before. I've only ever lived in crappy houses that other people have built, and they've all been crappy.
Yeah, it's a bit of a wild ride, but it's pretty fun.
Yeah. I would love to do it one day.
Yeah. I feel like it might be like tattoos, like that once you get one, then like you get addicted to it and you just want to keep doing it.
There was something else I had in my mind I wanted to ask you, and it's gone. What were you talking about? You were saying about I think I was just going to say about the learning. What we were talking earlier about information sharing in your newsletter and everything. I think like Enduro Builders, who I work for, Jackson Digney is an extremely generous person with his knowledge. So he'll go onto any building site and talk to any builder about how to do what he does. And he was the first builder I saw do that. And since I joined Enduro Builders or Climate Shore 3.5 years ago, I cannot believe it's been that long. But since I joined Enduro Builders, I have seen this absolute groundswell. There's been new podcasts. There's been industry bodies started up. There's just been like Instagram accounts going absolutely bananas. There is so much industry sharing going on. And I'm so encouraged by it all. And it's like we're all in businesses. We're all out to make profit and build a good product, but we're also out to help each other. And I'm really happy to be part of it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the idea that holding on to knowledge and expertise is important because you need to, like, from a competitive advantage point of view, I think that ship has sailed a long, long time ago. I think that what we're seeing now is that there's a real competitive advantage by sharing and being very public. And I mean, I assume, like, Jackson probably wouldn't do all of that stuff unless it actually was good for his business as well. And that, it attracts people. And the podcast that we've seen is that I think builders and designers who are doing this learning and sharing are being really clear in their values. That, like, it's an opportunity for them to state what they care about, to demonstrate their expertise. But probably more important than demonstrating their expertise is demonstrating a willingness to learn and collaborate and share. And I think, like, they're the kind of values that people want in their builder. And so it's such a great way to see that and kind of to get to know people, because when you're building a house, like you're in a long-term relationship with this builder. Like, the building part might be, 12 to 18 months, but then you've got a builder's warranty for several years and decades afterwards. It's like you want to trust this person, you want to be able to communicate with these people, and have that really, really strong foundation. So I think all of this sharing is a really important part, I guess, of the builder dating process, right? Or the the industry professional dating process. In that, like, you want to know who these people are before you give them so much money and enter into this relationship that's going to have a significant impact on your wallet, your health, your psychology, like a whole range of things. So I'm really encouraged by it too.
Yeah, for sure. That old saying, rising tide floats all boats. And as we said earlier, that we can't wait for the legislation to push us. It's all self-driven. All of this learning that all of us are doing is all self-driven. And it's the outcomes are really good for Australian homes. So Claire, you've got a little idea, a little project in the works. What's that about?
Well, this is just kind of a little seed of an idea, but one of the things that's been actually really helpful for me is in kind of getting into construction and understanding new terminology and how the systems work, is actually using ChatGPT to explain things in metaphor for me. So, explaining how a house wears a raincoat and, tries to keep warm, and these kind of visual imagery and metaphors are actually really helpful for me for understanding systems. And it made me think about how might we be able to use story and really simple story to help make these kind of concepts more accessible. And so I've got 2 young kids, and so this idea about writing about things like orientation and insulation and condensation in an accessible, fun way for kids, I thought could be a fun idea to help both children and adults really understand these concepts at a basic level, so that it becomes just like so second nature for my kids when they're thinking about buying or building a house, or even looking at rentals, just to understand like how this is oriented and which side the window's on is going to make sense, and asking questions about how is it insulated and what does insulation actually do. So that's my little project, is to think about writing some drafts this year of some children's books to explain, a handful of those core building science principles.
That's a really good idea, because training for people, not just builders and architects, but people, just general public. There's not really much information out there, but specifically for builders and architects, there's no like TAFE doesn't teach carpenters or plumbers about air tightness or about about moisture management. And architecture school doesn't have much focus on building performance either. So somewhere along the line, someone's got to point out to people who are going to build houses and design houses that, or live in houses, that these things matter, and that's all of us. And this whole journey of understanding all of this, as we have mentioned already today, it's all self-driven.
But I think that most people do have an experience of living or being in different spaces, right? You go, oh yeah, that share house that we lived in like here, it wasn't the sun in the lounge room amazing? Or remember that, that holiday house that we went to was all covered in mold in the bathrooms. Like, people have experience of spaces that function and feel good and healthy, and those that don't. And I guess it's about helping them to kind of understand why. And usually it's pretty basic and simple to understand why it is most of the time. So I think if we can kind of tap into the experience that people do have and the feel, and not make it kind of too technical and sciencey, then yeah. I hope that the general understanding improves.
Yeah, they do teach it. My kids have both had assignments at school about sustainable building. They've had to do models, and they've had to do designs, and they've had to say what they're going to do to make this sort of project sustainable. But mostly it's been focusing on vegetable patches and solar panels. It hasn't necessarily been focusing on the actual house itself. And so, the schools are trying. They are introducing these concepts to kids in their science lessons or whatever. But I think that there's still more. There's further to go in just introducing the concepts to kids and getting them to ask, sort of think more critically about the houses they're living in and why the sun is, beautiful in this room, or why that bathroom is so moldy, or why that bedroom is so hot.
Yeah. And I think I often like to explain it to people using the metaphor of like clothing layers, like a woolen jumper and, a raincoat and stuff. I mean, if you said to most people like, oh, like imagine wrapping yourself in plastic, and they would go, oh yeah, like a bit toasty warm, but it'd kind of get pretty gross pretty quickly. And then you go, oh, so like why would it be a good idea to wrap a house in plastic then? And people, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. And so kind of knowing, you know that you're going to be more comfortable when you're wearing a woolen jumper and a Gore-Tex jacket. So why wouldn't you're going to be dry and warm. So why wouldn't you try and kind of emulate that same build-up in a house as well?
Very good question. If there is one thing you want listeners to take away from your journey today and your experience, what would that be, Claire?
I think the key thing is that building is such a huge privilege. It's a massive privilege for a homeowner to be able to build their own home, but also I think for designers and for builders, like what an enormous privilege that we have to help people realize their dreams and create lifestyles and homes that kind of nourish them and their family. So it's an incredible privilege to do that work. And I think, like, to paraphrase that Spider-Man quote, with great privilege comes great responsibility. And so I think that we've got to like do it with intention and take that privilege and responsibility seriously. Maybe you were wanting like a really practical tidbit. That's my philosophy. Yep.
Yeah, there's a vast range of quality, and finding a builder that takes that responsibility seriously is key to the outcomes that are going to live, be with you for a very long time after the house is finished.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the construction industry uses so many resources, like environmental, like physical resources, but in terms of financial resources and energetic resources, like the labor that goes into building, I just think it's really important to think about like how we deploy those resources in the best way, and you're reducing the amount of wastage and I guess investing those resources in a way that's going to yield benefits, both kind of financial and non-financial down the track.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you, Claire. That's all. That's
You're
all we
welcome.
have time for today. We'll wrap up our conversation there. I appreciate you taking the time out to have a chat to me.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
That is all for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. There'll be another episode in a fortnight, so if you would like to listen into the types of conversations that I have all the time, please subscribe on your chosen platform. Rate the show, leave a comment, whatever you like, share with your friends and family. I'd love for you to spread the word about the Building Sciology Poddie. There's a link in the episode description where you can head to a landing page, and there are some show notes there with relevant links and a full transcript of the show as well, and also links to my socials. So if you're not already, I'd love for you to follow along there too, as I share lots of building science and building biology tips. There's also a contact page where you can send me an email or even a voice message. So if you've got questions or suggestions or guest ideas, I'd love to hear from you. I want to know what you want to know, so please get in touch with me. Thanks again. I'll be back in 2 weeks. So until then, happy healthy building.